All right, hold on. I have to go live on Instagram too, if you're here. And of course, it'll say checking connection, checking connection, checking connection. I don't know what's going on. But at least I'm live on one spot. I'm live on Facebook. I'm trying to go live on Instagram and it is not working. It just says checking connection. So we're just going to keep going with it. Happy Monday, everyone. I don't know about you guys. This is the kind of Monday I'm having. I'm drinking a lovely Amarone tonight because it has been a week. Thank you guys, first of all, to those of you who reached out about my lovely kidney stone situation. You're all very sweet and made a girl feel all the love, but that was basically, just to recap, just a fun little recap, the middle of my week started with a trip to the ER for kidney stones. Oh, hold on, let me check Instagram one more time. I don't know why it's not working. Hi, Meredith. Hey, strong friend. You're so sweet. I did not feel strong this week. Now I'm rebuilding my mojo. But I was in the ER with kidney stones, which if you've never had them before, it might be the most intense pain I've ever experienced in my life. And I've had 2 babies. So it's bad. It's really bad. And you know when it's happening if you've had it before. And I had that going on. And so that was a super fun visit to the ER with a toddler. And then my mom had to come and get her. So that was really, really fun. I did pull it together, thankfully, to go see my idol who was in town in Miami, Chelsea Handler, who I basically want to, I don't want to like wear her skin. Like I'm not that obsessed with her, but I'm pretty obsessed with her. I think she is so good and so funny. And she kind of inspired me a little bit this week, because if you are a fan of Chelsea Handler or really any of like the big, strong female comics and late show hosts, show hosts, whatever, they're so unapologetically themselves and so comfortable in their skin. And she is that. And so she inspired me. And I put up a post yesterday about how, I want to raise strong little girls and I want them to be aware of their rights and everyone else's rights. And I didn't really mention anything specifically about the ridiculous state of politics because I try and stay away from that stuff. But I lost like 20 or 30 people today on Instagram because of that post. I got them back and it's fine. Not them, different ones. I don't want them. But it's amazing to me that I didn't even call out what was going on in Alabama or these crazy places right now. All I said was that I want to raise strong women who know that they can stand up for their rights, and people left. That blows my mind. And they probably shouldn't be following me to begin with because I consider myself a strong woman. My husband loves me because I'm a strong woman. I'm surrounded by strong women. So I feel like if you're into my jokes and into my humor and into my stories, like that kind of, I would hope that that translates. So it blows my mind that people would get so bent out of shape without me mentioning that, about me mentioning that I want my kids to know what it's like to be strong women, that they would leave. Like it's a little bit scary to me. I'm not sad to lose them. I'm sad that that would be a reason. So anywho, we got through the kidney stones. We got through meeting Chelsea Handler. It was awesome. And now we're going to dig into the crowdsourcing. And I'm sorry if you tried to join on Instagram, but it's not working. I don't know why. So we're not going to do it tonight. All right. So I asked people today what the worst piece of parenting advice they've ever received was. And you know what the number one thing was across Instagram, across Facebook? And I fully agree with this. And I said before, I used to try and be neutral when I would talk about like parenting stuff and child rearing stuff, because I do believe there's room for a lot of opinions. But this is one that I actually feel strongly about. And if you're one of these people who does this, no offense to you, but we're all going to just express our opinions here. The most popular piece of parenting advice that people thought was the worst they'd received and hated it was Jason, bye Felicia, you do you. Yeah, exactly, Holiday, exactly. I am going to do me because that's why I started all this. I'm certainly not going to be someone else, but it's crazy to me that people would leave because of that. But I got better people who clearly are into that vibe. So it all happens for a reason. So the number one thing that people were saying was the worst advice they ever got was to lock their kids in their room if they were having sleeping issues. And I know people who've done this. I know people in my family who've done this. I know friends who've done this. And I think it is monstrous. And I'm sorry if that offends you. I'm sure that if you do that, we have other things in common that we can find a way to connect. But locking a child in their room and you being on the other side because you want them to go to sleep and they're screaming and fighting. If your kid is fine with it, your kid's fine with it. But most kids that I've heard in this situation from people I know who do it specifically, the kids are like traumatized and screaming and crazy. But there are people who give that advice who feel very strongly about sleep training and crying it out and all that stuff. And I have done both. I cried it out with my oldest one. I literally cried it out. And my little one, I refused to do it for a lot of reasons. I'm not going to get into it here because it will start an entire debate. And I really just don't have it in me. And that being said, I'm going to do this really quick. Cheers to all of you. But the number one piece of advice people thought was the worst was to lock your kids in their room. I fully agree with that. I think it's awful. All right, let's get to some of these are really funny. Some are alarming. Sherry says, screw you, Linda. Okay. My worst advice was to not sway back and forth with my baby. I mean, what are you supposed to do then? Just hold the baby and stand there? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Ronit, it's inhumane. What if the roles were reversed? Ronit, I completely agree. Don't lock your kids in their rooms if they can't go to sleep. Like, you want to cry it out. I would never do it again. I did it the first time, and now thinking about it, I'm traumatized from it. And I'm going to tell you this, even though my first one, I did the whole sleep training fervor, cried it out. Guess who co-slept when I got divorced and was in my bed all the time? It didn't do anything. And by the way, some of the people I know who lock their kids in the room and then were like bragging about what good sleepers they are, some of them now don't sleep unless every light is on, and they still are like in their parents' rooms at 3:00 in the morning. So get it together, people. All right. Letting your kids cry themselves to sleep. Have you ever tried to cry yourself to sleep? So I'm going to say this because this has opened the door. I understand the logic between crying it out. I get it. I understand the research behind it. I completely understand. Like I said, I did it with my first one, but I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to be very honest. So don't start to like fight with me on here, but I'm going to tell you why I changed my mind. I changed my mind because I read a story last year in Time magazine, and I don't know if it was from last year, if it was an older story, but I read a story in Time magazine that this woman went on a mission to an orphanage in like a third world country somewhere, and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of babies, and it was silent. And she said to the person running the orphanage, and I'm paraphrasing, so don't like go find the story and be like, Rachel, you misquoted. I'm paraphrasing. I'm giving you the cliff notes. She said to the woman running the orphanage, how is it so quiet with hundreds of babies in here? And the woman said to her, and this I believe is as close to a direct quote as it's going to get. She said, they cry and cry, but when nobody comes to get them, they just give up. And that sealed the deal for me. And I did not have my younger one cry it out. And guess what? She's just like my older one who did cry it out. She still cries multiple times a week before 5:00 in the morning for me to come and get her. So I'm just, after having my second one and after having a miscarriage before that and just changing my perspective, I'm a big fan of letting babies being babies. That's it. Jason, I'm not a parent. I keep saying Jason because that's what I'm looking at, but I don't mean to not call you Holiday. I'm not a parent. We all know. I have no patience. However, I've heard those gravity blankets work pretty good. You are the cutest for contributing to this conversation, even though you don't have kids. I have heard that. I've heard that those weighted blankets are great. I should probably get one for my older one because I know adults too who love them. I really wanted to try one for a while, but I get super claustrophobic and I feel like I would wake up and be panicked that like something was laying on top of me because from what I hear, they're a little bit heavy. All right. We had a lot of people who said the worst advice was around babies consuming alcohol, like putting whiskey on their teeth or in their bottle or stuff like that. If any of you guys did any of these because you didn't think they were bad advice, I want to know. I want you to speak up. Hey, Valley. Okay. One woman said, the advice she got was don't give your kids Tylenol or Motrin when they have a fever. Let the fever break naturally. It resulted in a febrile seizure and a trip to the hospital. Yeah, I'm also into medication for adults and children if it's needed. So I'm not going to not give my kids Tylenol or Motrin if they have a fever. I want them to feel better. Feed your toddler hot dogs, fast food, so they can grow taller because of the hormones in the food. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Jennifer, same story. I heard it's heart-wrenching that babies just stop crying because no one responds. Yep. And so getting back to that for a second, you're accomplishing your goal of sleep training by them stopping crying, but you can't convince me. And I've spoken to psychologists too. There is trauma. There's trauma attached to it. So, I can't get behind it. Valley, worst advice ever was use a heavier hand with the boy for discipline. I can't. I am not into spanking. I'm not into physical reprimand. But if a kid misbehaves, they misbehave, and it shouldn't matter if they're a boy or a girl. You should discipline them the way you discipline them, aside from the physical stuff. That's ridiculous advice. Okay. Someone, this is sarcasm, so I like it, said that sleep training works. Yes, it did not work for me either. Someone told my mom that my sister poops too much, so stop feeding her so much chocolate. You guys, we are surrounded by idiots sometimes. It's concerning for the future of our youth. Okay, just give them a bottle instead of your boob and your life will change forever. So I have very strong feelings about that. I nursed both of my babies, the first one for half the time of the second one because I just wasn't producing milk. I don't understand why anyone thinks it's their business to tell someone how to feed their baby. You shouldn't be pushing breastfeeding. You shouldn't be pushing a bottle. You shouldn't be pushing anything. It's not your baby. You do what you want with your baby. And if somebody else wants to not even attempt to breastfeed and give them formula, good for them. And if they want to nurse them until they are, however many years old, good for them too. But you stay out of people's business about how they feed their baby. It's get over the whole breast is best. I know there's science. I believe in it. I breastfed both of my kids, but if somebody doesn't have it in them, they don't have it in them. And that is not your say. And you know what? Motherhood is hard. And sometimes things like that put you over the edge. And it is more important as a parent to keep your sanity for your kids so that they have a healthy, sane mother than do something that makes you so insane that you cannot function. So stop putting pressure on women to do just what you think is right. There's no right way to feed a baby. Just feed them. Just feed the baby. Okay. This was a good one. This is from our friend Dip Girl. If you guys are regular listeners, Sarah, don't talk to your child like an adult. They don't need to know big words yet. That's logical. Let's just dumb it down for them so they don't grow in their vocabulary. Exactly. Live and let live about feeding your kids as long as they're fed. Yes. As long as they're fed. Okay. Someone told me literally once, you don't want to nurse him every time he's hungry. So again, and here's the thing, I know that, and especially when you are a first-time mom, and I'll tell you, even as a second-time mom, I had my kids 8+ years apart because of circumstances, and you forget. I mean, a lot of it comes naturally, but I remember thinking, oh wait, how many hours in between feedings, all those things. It's not your business. Do what you want with your baby and let everyone do what they want, but don't tell someone. You can give advice. I always like to give advice not unsolicited, but if someone asks, I will never say, you need to do this, you should do this. I always try and frame it by saying, what worked for me was, because that's the truth. It is what worked for me, but it may not work for other people. So stop being a dick. Was that a little bit too aggressive? I'm getting annoyed reading these. This is a good one. In reference to spanking or not spanking, someone told this person to throw oranges at their kids because they don't leave a mark. That's a good one. That's one I've never heard before. My mother-in-law doesn't think I should say no to my 2-year-old because he deserves to be happy. That's real. That's on here. Somebody's mother-in-law. We could probably do a whole show on mother-in-laws. That would be a fun one. My mother-in-law doesn't think I should say no to my 2-year-old because he deserves to be happy. Yep. Okay. Don't pick up your baby or you'll spoil him or her. So that's really funny. I pick up my babies I love to hold my kids. My 10-year-old still wants to be held. And she would probably allow me to if I could hold her and it didn't hurt my back every second. Holiday, you know me, keeping it real. I'm doing me, just like you said to. All right, so here's the thing about not picking up your baby. Why? They're babies. They're not going to want to be held forever. Pick them up as much as you want to pick them up or as much as you don't want to pick them up. But I had my newborn, my older one was at school, and Comcast, I think it was, who I think is the devil anyway, came out to fix something. And the guy looked at me, and I kept picking up the baby because she was fussy and crying and probably gassy. And she also had colic for the first 3 months. And I wanted to murder everybody that came in my house. But he looked at me and had the nerve to say, you shouldn't pick her up every second because she's going to get spoiled. It took everything in me to not throat punch the Comcast guy as if I didn't hate Comcast enough. And you better believe that I called management and told them about that and put it in writing, because who are you, Comcast man, to fix shitty internet and cable anyway, to tell me to not pick up my kid in my house? Let's say it all together. Stop being a dick. That's going to be my new mantra. Okay. Let's see what else I have here. Oh, these are the ones from Facebook. All right. Here's another breastfeeding shaming one. That I need to breastfeed because my kids wouldn't be as smart if they drank formula. I politely let that person know that she should advise her kids that they were breastfed on their college applications and resume if it makes them so much smarter. Maybe people should start doing that. That is ridiculous. Women's boobs and vaginas and other things that help with baby making and baby feeding are no one's business but your own. Period. End of story. Okay? For fussy eaters, just give them whatever you're cooking. They'll eat eventually. Not good advice when your child is already underweight. Do I love being a short order cook, making individual meals for everybody? No, but I'm not going to let my kids starve either. I am 100% with you because I have 2 kids like that who will ask for like 4 different things and maybe they'll eat one of them. But I hate cooking a million different things, but I also want my children to eat. And a psychologist told me once that a good rule of thumb, and this is something that's always worked for us. This is something that worked for me. See how I'm doing that in practice? Something that worked for us is if you have a picky eater, if they don't want what you're making for dinner, if you are that person who doesn't want to be a short order cook, then you can give them an out every night. And it should be pretty much like the same. They can't have a million choices. That defeats the purpose of this exercise. But for example, let's say you're making steak and your kid doesn't want steak. Their out can be peanut butter and jelly or cereal or something easy, something that doesn't require you getting up and cooking, and they're allowed to have that instead of the regular dinner. Maybe you switch it up every couple weeks to, have a little bit of variety, but that's a tactic we use here, and that works because then at least they eat every night. I don't care as long as they eat. This is a friend of mine from childhood. She said, not for my parenting, but one summer when I was a nanny, the person she was nannying for said, she does best if you negotiate with her. The kid had a behavior problem and the parents would engage in negotiations, not realizing that firm, kind boundaries would be best. 2 weeks under my care and she was a model child, accepting no's and regulating her emotions like a champ. Evelyn, do you want to come over? I will fly you down. I will fly you down. My kids both negotiate. That was what my post was about yesterday. And I do think to an extent, it is actually normal, healthy developmental behavior, but there's a difference between kids who negotiate because they're pushing boundaries and kids who are just being assholes. It's a fine line, but it exists. Okay. The worst advice ever was to feed on demand. Not that there's anything wrong with that if that works for you, but when you're a triplet mama, when one eats, everybody eats. And that's the thing too, is everyone's journey is different. Maybe you have 1, maybe you have 3. Carol, you are late, but it's okay. I'm glad you're here. Maybe you have 1, maybe you have 3, maybe you have 10. You feed your babies when you feel it's right to feed your babies. Some babies cluster feed, and some people are really good about getting them onto a regular schedule, but whatever. Again, mind your own damn business. Wake up your child every 3 hours to nurse or drink a bottle during the day so they can learn the difference between daytime and nighttime. Guess what? They don't know the difference. They don't know the difference. You're not going to teach a 2-week-old the difference between daytime and nighttime. Fight me. Okay? Put socks on him. He's too cold. Take the socks off him. He's too hot. Total stranger in the supermarket in a 3-minute span. I cannot stand strangers who comment on your baby or touch your baby or breathe on your baby. There's this really great product. I used it personally. They're called, oh God, now that I want to plug it, I'm going to forget what it was. It's a good thing this isn't a sponsored ad. They're the little car seat covers, Milk Snob. Milk Snob. They have the cutest little car seat covers. They're also nursing covers, and they have this little like slit. So they slide on top of the car seat, and it's like a tiny little airway so you can see the baby, and it's breathable fabric. With my second one, I took her out in that all the time because to me that was like a big one of these that everyone would know not to come near my baby. And if they did, they would realize that I was not going to just let them look in the car seat. Yes, Lindsay, Milk Snob. Great. Check them out. They have really cute stuff. If you're a new mom or you plan on having more kids, I used it as a nursing cover and a car seat cover, and it was fantastic. This is a good one. When your toddler's throwing a fit, get down at their level and reason with them. Thanks. My son got irritated when I did this and he hit me in the face the first time. First and only time he hit me, nonetheless, he was pissed. So I've heard this also, and I know that there is, again, research behind it and all that kind of stuff. My younger one's teacher, who I adore and is a beacon of knowledge for me in every way, said that to me. When they start to find their voices and they're trying to establish independence and they're learning about boundaries, or they just don't understand how to communicate, a lot of times that's how tantrums happen. And they tell you that you're supposed to, instead of yelling, that you're supposed to get down to their level and kind of get quieter so that they get quieter. And I never like to dismiss advice because I do think that there's a lot of different perspectives to be had about child rearing and everything that comes along with it. I did try it because I never want to be that mom who yells or gets crazy all the time, but it didn't work for me at all. It made no difference for me. I tried it a few times, but I think the biggest reason why it didn't make a difference for me is not because that tactic isn't valuable and doesn't work, because my baseline is not quiet. I'm not a quiet person. So it felt completely unnatural for me. I felt like I was like an Academy Award winning actress who was not going to win an Emmy doing that. I couldn't do it. If you guys do that, I want to know if it works for you, but not if you're like a naturally quiet, calm mother who is like a saint. I want to know if you're a mother who gets frazzled easily and you've done that, if it actually works for you. Don't ever let your baby sleep in your bed. So obviously there's a lot of controversy about things like this because of SIDS and horrible things that happen, but let's be realistic for a second. I don't really know many parents that have not at some point or another, whether it was a temporary thing or long-term or out of desperation, hasn't put their child in their bed. If you do it, just be safe. Like, they sell so many things now so that if you're worried about God forbid something happening or rolling over, or, whatever it is, they sell all these like co-sleepers that fit in your bed or on the side of your bed. So there are ways to do it safely. Carol, it's true though, right? My baseline is not quiet. I'm not like a shrinking violet. I can't help it. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to skip that one because I want to go back to that. My mom's was bite the kid back. And we've actually heard this before from multiple people, that if your kid pulls your hair or bites you, you should do that behavior back to them. Obviously not in a way where you hurt them. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So you're going to teach your kid, if they pull your hair, you're going to yank their hair back. That is the most asshole advice I've ever heard. Okay. Oh my gosh, we were coming out of a play park yesterday and I overheard a dad say to one of his two boys, well, because you've just hit him, the next time he hits you, that's a free one. We just stared at each other in shock. Not parenting advice, but I'm not sure I would advocate for such a tactic. Yeah, I don't believe in like an eye for an eye type of thing, but I will say this. We had a bully situation years ago with my older daughter, and the little girl would get handsy and like put her hands on her and not have boundaries and not take no for an answer. And it was getting us really angry because people were not stepping in when they were supposed to. And my daughter is not violent. She's loud and she has like a big personality, but she doesn't lay her hands on people. She's not physical. She's more likely to like recoil if someone comes after her. But her dad and I both said to her, listen, don't ever lay your hands on somebody, especially like taking the initiative when nothing has happened, or if someone insults you or whatever, to lay your hands on somebody. However, if somebody lays their hands on you and you go to a teacher, an authority figure, wherever you are, and say, so-and-so just hit me, so-and-so pulled my hair, and they basically blow you off and don't do anything about it, if that person comes at you again, once you've already drawn your boundary and told them no, if they do anything and put their hands on you, you have my permission to hit them and hit them back harder, and I will deal with it. And I realize that may be an unpopular opinion, but if an authority figure is not going to step in for a child, I'm not talking about like a teenager, like, you're a little bit older, better, just walk away. when you're little and you're trying to figure out how to communicate and all that stuff, you have to also learn how to defend yourself. And I don't even mean just physically, but if you have a bully coming after you and a teacher or somebody is not doing something, I'm one of those parents who, oh, my mom's here, my mom will vouch for this. I'm one of those parents that if somebody lays their hands on my kid and nobody does anything about it, and my child is desperately trying to get that person to stop by using words or smarts or logic and it's not working, if they come after you, I will completely have your back and handle the repercussions of whatever is going to happen in school. And I realize that's like a broad statement to make, and there's probably a lot of shades of gray. The bottom line is, don't fuck with my kid, okay? Is that put it bluntly? Sherry, that's when you call for Linda to step in and hold her earrings. If they start, you finish it. Yeah, I'm not an advocate for violence at all. I'm not. I want people to be kind, but I think that when someone gets pushed to their brink and nobody's doing anything to help them, whether you're at a camp, a school, whatever it is, and you're supposed to be there to protect the kids and have their best interests, just kind of blowing them off when they're telling you they're being physically bullied, I don't know what to tell you. And my mom agrees. She says, don't be a victim. Okay. Oh, Carol, this is yours. I'm not sure that it's the worst, but I just didn't get it at the time. I was obviously older, but my mom would say, close your legs and open your eyes. I mean, I guess that was her way of trying to tell me something, but I would have preferred some real talk. Don't trust boys. You can get pregnant on the first try. Talk to me about birth control, like we do now. Say what your kids need to hear. Amen, Carol. We have those conversations now because my older one is starting the classes. I don't know what they call it now. It was sex ed when we had it, but now it's like health and human body, whatever it is. So we have those conversations, and I want to set very healthy perspective and guidelines and things like that with intimacy and sex and all those things with my kids. I don't want them to fear it. I don't want them to be ashamed of it, but I do want them to understand that it is a big deal and that you can't take things back and all those lessons that, Carol, you're talking about teaching. So with the whole sex thing, I've told my daughter when she's asked me, what if you don't want to have a baby? What if you have sex but you don't want to have a baby when you're older? And I decided that the scare tactic to use, which is actually factual, is I said to her, if you are not ready to care for a baby, you should not be having sex, because you can't guarantee 100%, no matter what you do, that a baby will not come. It's always going to be a possibility. People on birth control have gotten pregnant. People with IUDs have gotten pregnant. People with all their, fancy methods have gotten pregnant. So if you do not want to have a baby, you should strongly consider having sex, is what I told her. That is what I told her. And I'm very comfortable with that. And I can put my head on my pillow at night feeling like I'm doing good parenting, and at least we're having real conversations. Okay, so let me go back to this one. Mom, you missed yours. We were talking about the biting the kids. Okay, this is probably the worst piece of parenting advice I've ever heard, and I hate it so much. And it's the one where people tell you to sleep when the baby sleeps. Guess what happens when you sleep with the baby sleeps? When the baby sleeps, not only does nothing get accomplished, no laundry, no, maybe you want to make a meal, maybe you want to binge watch Vanderpump Rules because you've been watching Mickey Mouse Club and you need a break and some stimulation and all those things. Guess what else happens? That's the only time basically in your entire day where you don't have a child hanging on you. So if you sleep when the baby sleeps, you don't get to enjoy your freedom. That's my 2 cents on it. Plus, it's not really realistic because there's always something to do. Sherry, people, I didn't know I was pregnant. Wait, I don't think that's English, Sherry. What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. But that was the second most popular one. Sleep when the baby sleeps and locking kids in their rooms when they won't sleep were the 2 really bad pieces of advice. All right. That was a fun topic. Thank you guys for contributing all your stuff. And then we're going to do the vent sesh really quick. And all I'm going to say is this. I've been deleting people from my feeds lately on like rapid pace. I've been calling people out. If you're on my Instagram page, you should check out my highlight reel for CTFD. It's a joke because I've been posting the people who get absolutely crazy and nasty before I block them on a lot of the stuff that I post. I've been posting them in there and they are actually hilarious that the people take the time to do this. But what I will never understand is all these people who see something I post, whether it's a joke, an article, a microblog, whatever it is, and they have a million things to say, a million opinions to throw my way. But the minute that I chime in with my opinion, I'm the monster. So apparently, if you guys didn't know, you're not allowed to have an opinion when you're the one putting information out there. Only the people who feel like commenting and starting shit are the ones who are allowed to have an opinion, just in case you didn't know that. I like to share information so that we're all on the same page. That was obviously sarcastic. All right, lastly, what I'm into is not a product, it's not a service. Because my week was so crazy this week, I decided that the whole weekend I was not going to wear pants. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but I want to tell you something. Except for going to Chelsea Handler and except for a quick run to Target, I went pantsless all weekend and hung out in a t-shirt and underwear. All day and all night, I did not leave my house except for those two little things. And it was like the equivalent to a vacation. I say that obviously a little bit dramatically, but it was so great and I highly recommend it. If you have not tried it, you don't know what you're missing. If you're already doing it, then you're a step ahead of the game. But I have never been so relaxed because I think the fact that I didn't have pants on, the psychological part of it was that I knew I didn't have to do anything or go anywhere. And so I was immediately like breathing a sigh of relief. So my PSA for the day is that if you have not gone pantsless in your own home to decompress, you should give it a try. It's glorious. With that, I'm out. That's our show for tonight. Thank you guys, as always, for joining me. And what's this weekend? Memorial Day. So have a great Memorial Day weekend. I don't know if I'm going to do a show or not Monday since it is a holiday, right? Is it this weekend or next weekend? You guys, I don't even know. School's ending in a couple weeks. Camp is starting, and I'm starting to not know what day it is. Thank you guys either way for joining me. And I'll speak to everybody next week. Have a great rest of the week. Happy Monday, live from my closet.